Hi, guys. How are you?
Good. Nice to see you, Brian.
Nice to see you. I'm so excited I've heard Seth's voice for I don't know how many years. And it's great on podcasts and radio, Seth, and Sirius. And Jay, it's great to meet you both and see you both. You're joining us from where again?
Provincetown.
Very appropriate.
Very nice. You know, we live in Newton, Mass. You guys should stop by on your way
So pretty.
home. So, what are you doing there? Just relaxing?
No, I do a show with a Broadway star around kind of like once a week, once every 10 days. So I've got a show.
With Beth Malone, who happens to have done voices, stars for foster kids in the past.
Yeah, Beth from Fun
A couple
Home.
of times.
Oh, cool. Yeah. That's right. P-Town does not end after Labor Day, right? It's still going strong.
Correct. Mundo.
So it's nice not to have the large crowds.
Okay, good.
That part's good.
So I have to tell you, Seth's big fat Broadway cruise is on my bucket list. So
Great.
my husband and I someday, I can't sing, I can't carry a tune, but we love all things Broadway.
Good. We need audience. So great. Come on the cruise and be our damn audience.
Right. So now let's talk about You Gotta Believe, which is an amazing adoption foster agency in the New York City area. They help older kids in the foster care system find loving, permanent, forever families. And I love everyone that works there and their whole team, etc. So I'm curious, what is your relationship with You Gotta Believe? How did you guys get to know them?
Well, it's interesting. It's I don't know, not a what is the word? Circuitous way, but sort of. In 2015, Seth and I had taken some fostering classes from not You Gotta Believe, but a different organization.
Okay.
And around that time, the then head of children, what is it called? ACS,
yes.
Adult, Administration of Children's Services, basically cut funding to the organization that we had done our foster care training with.
She was a rhymes with which. Continue.
And You Gotta Believe, and we were so outraged by it that I think we started a change.org petition.
Yeah.
And we got interviewed by, I don't know, NPR or someone like that, or 1010 Wins in New York. And then we said, well, we need to do something.
If the city council is going to cut money, then we'll raise the money.
Right.
So we decided to do a big show on Broadway, and all these big producer people were like, oh, you need
it's going to take a year
to plan it. We're like, shut up. So we got all these big Broadway stars, and we had Tina Fey and people from Wicked, all these great people, and Jake Kukowski, and we just put on the show in just a couple of weeks, and it became this yearly event, which is now called Voices, Stars for Foster Kids, and now it's focused solely on You Gotta Believe, which is the only organization in New York to focus solely on finding families for older foster youth. This is what year is this now?
This is our 9th. What's so funny?
I just talk to you the way my husband talks to me.
Which is?
So what year is
it? Isn't that what you said? What you should say? What you should have said?
What's that?
What should I have said?
Oh, never mind. I thought you said something else, Seth, to James.
Oh, no, I said,
no.
What year is this?
Because he's not sure what year.
I can't keep track.
Because he knows that I really know that. That's our 9th annual event. Yeah. Next year will be the 10th anniversary.
Oh my God.
Doing it. Yeah. This is our first time back though at Town Hall since 2020. So that's really exciting. The last 2 years, our last one we did was literally weeks before everything shut down, and that only
last one we did live at Town Hall.
Yeah, the last one we did live. Thank you, Seth, at Town Hall, and that was only because Lori Metcalf, who adopted from foster care.
The reason we chose that time period.
I need Seth here to fill in the gaps.
Because normally we always do it. We always do it in the summer or the fall, but we decided to do it in February, the last minute, because Lori Metcalf, who adopted from foster care, was only available then. So it worked out perfectly because it was right before the shutdown. So we were able to raise the money and then everything shut down.
But here's the amazing thing, Brian, is that he gave us 2 choices.
Lori Metcalf.
Like Lori Metcalf did. She said, because we knew, come on, Lori Metcalf is a huge star. We knew that we had to base the show around her, right? You'd be crazy not to. But Lori had said, I can give you 2 different time frames. I can give you early February of 2020, or I can give you June of 2020 after the Tony Awards.
And we always do them in June, but for whatever reason, you chose February.
I was just like, let's just do it. Things change. Let's just do February. And sure enough, of course,
thank God you did.
Thank God we did.
This is the first one back live, which we haven't done forever, and we have so many amazing people.
Oh my God, we're gonna kick off the show with Patina Miller recreating the role that got her the Tony Award for Pippin. We're gonna open it with magic to do, not just with Patina singing, but everyone, including the parents and the kids that are going to be participating.
Oh my God.
Cannot wait.
So I wanted to ask you about that. Some highlights of the show. So obviously
that's a big one.
A huge
I want to talk to you about the
yes.
I want to talk to you about the format, because that's what's really the special part of the show. Is basically we have either parents who have adopted from foster care, or they're raising kids from foster care, or kids that were foster youth, talk about their experience and why it was important to find a family and how their lives have changed. And at the end of them talking about it, they talk about a song that meant something to them, that either gave them hope or reminds them of their foster family. And then we have that song performed. And sort of the classic example we have is Charlene Tilton from Dallas. Her mom sadly went into a psychiatric hospital, and she was in all these different foster families, and they were very abusive to her. But her one fond memory is her mom was out on leave, and they saw The Sound of Music together one weekend. And Charlene said whenever she thinks about The Sound of Music, she has this happy feeling of her mom. So we had Megan Hilton come out and perform a song from The Sound of Music to just kind of do the whole thing full circle. So that's how the format of the show is.
Wow, that's fantastic. So how many different segments, I guess you call it? How many of the will there
Yes. Be? So we have 5 different stars with those songs. And then on top of that, our other stars are the families. And we're going to be talking to 3 different families.
But the stars are also from families. Like Rosie Perez, we have again, Bellamy Young from Scandal. But we also have actual foster families from You Gotta Believe.
Exactly.
Oh, wow. So everyone's got, everyone has some kind of connection, authentic connection to foster. That's one of them. So maybe it's the time I ask you about your family.
Oh, about our family, because James adopted with Julie when she was, I guess, 5, and then I adopted her when she was in her 20s.
Which this is an interesting story because it actually happened
her together. Yeah, we raised her together, and I was her legal.
Since she was 6, and stepfather since she was 12.
Yeah, I was her legal stepfather, but we just kept thinking like, oh, I should probably adopt her. But interestingly, a lot of people were like, A, why adopt her, and B, can you really adopt someone that old? And the reality is you can adopt anyone any age. Correct. And the reality is it did make a difference to me and to Julie, even though I was her legal stepfather, but to be fully her legal father, it's just a different feeling. Now, by the way, You Gotta Believe does not say you have to adopt.
There's moral adoption, as you probably
just,
know.
Being loyal to the kid. But it really did make a difference legally adopting her. And she hyphenated, and she took my horrible last name. So now she's
you believe that?
Julie Rudetsky Wesley. Even I don't want that last name.
The amount of times I've had to spell Rudetsky whenever I've been calling the insurance company,
it's the worst.
I'm like, oh my gosh.
Well, I maybe this will make you guys feel better. Our children have mine and my husband's last name's hyphenated. Mine's Rosenberg. His is Van Gammeren.
Oh, forget it. You win. You win.
We just put RVG on all labels and stuff. It's their first name in RVG.
That's what Julie does. That's Julie RW. No one can spell that crap.
Oh my gosh.
But we have a lot of live performing.
And the tickets start at literally only $25 if you go to Town Hall.
Yeah.
So it's not one of those galas that are really fancy. It's like it's like seeing a Broadway show, and it's $25, and every audience member leaves with a child. No, but the point is, but it's cheap, and the performances.
Yeah, if you pay $25, you're obligated to have it. Right.
But Donna Murphy's going to be there. Donna Murphy with 2 Tony Awards. She adopted, so she's going to tell her adoption story, and she's going to perform.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Are there any other gay dads who are performing?
Yes. So Matt Gould and his husband Griffin Matthews, who's from The Flight Attendant.
Yep.
They are actually literally just like months ago finalized. Thank you, Seth. Not 1 but 2 kids.
From foster care.
Yeah, we just met them a couple of days ago when we were doing Stars in the House in Los Angeles. So 3 and 5 years old, absolutely adorable. I don't know if the kids are going to make it, but yes, 2 gay dads. Absolutely. In addition to these gay dads hosting it. But yes.
Yes.
By the way, James adopted as a single father back in 2004, like when no one was adopting in those single dads.
So, James, tell us about that, because I agree, Seth. That's a story worth sharing. How did that even come to be, James?
She's biologically my niece, and she was born in 2000, and I raised her for a good part of 2001. and then in New York City. And then she moved after the events of 9/11. She moved back with my sister to Texas. I missed her terribly. Things weren't going all that great at home. Yeah. I moved back to Texas, which I never thought I would do. I was born and raised there. When I left, I was like, I'm never going back, but I did. You do that for kids and loved ones. And I ended up living there for a couple of years. She lived with me full time, and my then partner for
you had someone before me?
I thought Seth was your first.
No, not at all. When she was 3 years old, and then I adopted her legally, actually, because Seth wasn't there. It's okay that he got the year wrong. I actually adopted her December 31st, 2005.
Right.
But here's the crazy thing. I knew I needed to move back to New York, and I really wanted to. That's where my heart was. Yeah. And I moved back, but I also moved back because there weren't that many gay dads who were adopting, back then.
Especially single gay dads.
Single gay dads, really rare. And I didn't have money. I mean, I had to borrow money to do through the legal.
Well, talk about it. Sorry, when you were in New York, when you were
and when Julie was a baby and I was raising her. I mean, I was the only guy, the only white person, the only gay person, up in Washington Heights, applying for subsidized childcare, getting formula and all of that, and Medicaid, everything. I mean, I've done all of that.
Because our point is, everybody on TV, the gay dads are always super wealthy, and it's like there can be gay dads that aren't actually wealthy.
Absolutely, that was not me at all. But when I moved back to New York in 2006, I really thought, oh, no one's going to want to date me. It's just I thought, okay, this is just what it is. And I was totally fine. And of course, 4 months later at a game night, the first time my mom had come up to New York in December of 2006, and I had a babysitter because I couldn't afford a babysitter, I went and I met this guy.
It was a singles gay game night, and we were both on Match.com, and his match was, I have a child, and my match was I never want a child, ever, ever, ever. Don't come to me with a child. So, but
that is true. That is true.
But we met at this game night. The next thing I know, I adopted this brat. So it all worked out.
Wait, so you find out that he's got a kid, and you're like...
I wasn't I never want a child, but I wasn't one of... There's so many gay people that came that was my whole life I dreamed of being a father. I was like,
not him.
I was just whatever. I mean, I love kids, and I have nieces, but it wasn't me. So it wasn't I desperately wanted one, but I knew he had Julie, and she was so cute. She was only 6 years old. And the joke story is I just broken off a 10-year relationship, and I was planning on having this one full year of having an amazing time. And he was basically the first person I started dating. But the third date, I was like, we're going to get married. So I kind of missed out my whole year of being a whore, but it worked out. Dates with kids. PG-13. PG-13.
Well, we all
have the stories you won't be able to hear at the benefit.
Yes, we're going to clean it up for the benefit.
This is the first probably R-rated Instagram Live I've hosted, but that's all good. We all had a life before we were dads. Actually,
that's right.
6 or 7 years ago, we were living in the Bronx, in Riverdale. I like to say the Bronx because it makes me sound tougher than I really am. So I'm very familiar with the Washington Heights neighborhood.
Oh, right.
Having seen In the Heights in Broadway Live as well. So, but anyhow, what an interesting story. That is really compelling, and it is crazy because I don't know too many people from those days, and back, in the 90s and in the early the aughts, most of us were just worried about getting AIDS and dying. So it wasn't even really on the radar for a lot of people.
And yet the reality is, Brian, is that this has been going on for, generations upon generations. They just we weren't allowed to adopt.
Correct.
Or there were so many barriers. But the reality is gay dads, gay men have been raising children for years.
Yeah.
It wasn't legal.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's get back to You Gotta Believe. So,
yes.
And this Voices event, tell us again taking place. I know because I'm going to go.
I want to tell
you too. Monday.
3 things. So it's September 18th. It's at the Town Hall. You go to yougottobelieve.org. But the reason why You Gotta Believe we think is so great is because when people want to adopt, they want a pure baby. And they think, oh, this baby will have no issues. And once a kid is 8 years old, they're considered special needs by the foster care society people because a lot of people don't want a kid that's 8 years old. But the reality is, for a kid to finally leave his family, it takes a lot of years because they try to have the mother raise, the father raise, relatives. once everyone says beyond no, we're not capable of raising a kid, the kid is older. It's not the fault of the kid, but then they go into foster care, they age out at the age of 18, and 50% become homeless or in jail because there's no adult, not even giving them money, giving them advice about whether to go to college, what to major in, to come home on Thanksgiving. So you got to believe helps these kids that are 10, 15, 20, 23 have older people looking out for them. And that's why we love You Gotta Believe.
I couldn't agree more. You know, to put some real stats or real numbers behind what you just said, Seth, there are 400,000 kids in the foster care system here in the U.S. That more than 25%, I think the numbers now are 125,000 of those kids freed up for adoption. There is no birth family member that's going to come ever and say, come live with us. We want to love you and take care of you. So 125,000 kids are looking for loving, safe, forever families that they can call their own. And you're right. You Got to Believe does whatever they can to get as many of those kids into safe, loving homes as possible. And that's why I love You Got to Believe.
And talk about what You Got to Believe does in the long run.
Well, and You Got to Believe also because parenting doesn't just end when the day that you adopt, you know, it goes on for your whole life. And You Got to Believe that's one of the commitments that they make to the parents is that they're there for you 24 hours a day if you need help.
You can call at any time for years after and say, what do I do? My kid is now 15 and they want to transition. Whatever it is, You Got to Believe. We'll help them. You Got to Believe is watching right now. Hi, You Got to Believe.
But Brian, I want to emphasize that the show, of course, this is a serious subject, but the show, and we touch on these things during the show, but the show is also, if you don't know anything about foster care other than what you just learned in the last 10 minutes, it's also just a lot of fun.
It's we're doing the entire end of Act 1 from Dreamgirls. We have a full cast. We have an Effie. We have Norm Lewis as Curtis. We're doing the full ending of Act 1. So I'm telling you, it's
Tony nominee on her one night off. Natasha Yvette Williams from Some Like It Hot is going to be there.
Yeah.
It's going to be amazing.
Do you want, I don't know, in case you have any last minute openings, if you'd like someone who can't sing, who's tone deaf, and has no rhythm whatsoever to be on stage, I just want you to know I could be available.
I'm already filling that role. So
that is not you at all, Seth.
Whatever. A little tone.
All right, so You Got to Believe we're going to be there. My husband and I are going to be there. We're excited to watch you guys and the whole show. Takes place Monday, September 18th in New York City. By the way, if you're watching and you're not in New York City, you can still help this wonderful organization. Go to YouGottaBelieve.org and support them and the work and help them help other kids find forever families. Monday night, September 18th, 7 p.m. You can look at the details and the bio Gays with Kids for a link to the website as well. Seth and James, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. I look forward to seeing you guys on stage in person.
Thank you. It was fun.